Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the NGO Whisperer show. My name is Carolyne Opinde. I am the founder of the NGO Whisperer. We are a consulting business that provides technical support to nonprofits so they can successfully impact people's lives. Joining us today from Toronto, Canada is Dr. Rebecca Harper. She is the founder of the Family Civility Institute. Dr. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I watch your show. I love it. And when you asked me to be on it, I was so excited because I admire all the work that you do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rebecca. I would like us to go straight into today's topic, which is building stronger families for stronger nations. We all know that family or the family, depending on what your family looks like. It could be your normal nuclear family. It could be your normal, and I'm saying normal because it is normal. It could be your normal single mother, your normal single father kind of family, or it could be a family of siblings just together because they were orphaned, and that is also a family. So now, looking at what a family could be, based on your situation. We know that any intervention that is done from a family's perspective ends up being a really sustainable one. And today, we're going to talk about this from someone who has implemented this program and has years of experience working with families in different countries, Jamaica, and now in Canada. Now, to take us to the first question, what motivated you or inspired you to start the Family Civility Institute?
I saw the oppression that families receive, especially what you said. You know, if you come from a single parent home, if you come from a sibling home, if you come from a foster home, you're looked down upon. It's like, oh, I'm sorry you don't have a father. Or I'm sorry you don't have, and you know what? There are many, many children who have grown up to be amazing adults that have come from different types of families. So just because you don't have or you're not part of a nuclear family doesn't mean you should be felt sorry for. What you need is equity. You just need different things that a nuclear family needed. And I kept seeing it. I faced it when I became a single mother. All of a sudden, my children are like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, your parents broke up. Oh, I'm sorry. Why? My kids are doing really well. And I'm a single mother. You know, so when you look at the new style of family, I was like, we have to stop this oppression. And then I dug deeper and I started working with the families, and I'm like, it didn't matter what type of family you came from. The family succeeded once they were given what they were needed. And one, it is seeing their strengths, going into a single parent home and say to mommy, you know, mommy, you're amazing. You know, you're doing this and you're doing it alone. Not that you don't have a father, you're doing it alone. It's not easy being a 24/7 parent. I mean, in COVID, it's not easy either. Then I go to the kids and I say, wow, you're amazing. You help mommy out. You're standing up, you know, you're helping with your siblings. And we look at their strengths. When I saw that happen, and it is an evidence-based approach, it's a strength-based approach. A lot of times these families never even saw what good they were doing. Mm-hmm. They kept being saying, oh, but I don't have a dad. Oh, but I have this. And there are a lot of statistics that are out there, you know, when a son doesn't have a father. Well, guess what? There are male role models all around. There can be brothers, there can be uncles, they can be scout leaders. It is, again, finding the equity. Okay, you're a single mom. You need male role models for your sons and daughters. Where can we find them? But doesn't mean we're going to belittle your work. Because you are a good mother and you can concentrate on being a good mother. You don't have to do both roles. And
Absolutely.
it's finding that equity. And that's how it came about. Working 8 years on my radio show in Jamaica, seeing what a difference the call-ins, I was a call-in show, so I was doing counseling over the radio every week. And these were the messages. And they would call back and say, boy, Miss Rebecca, I can't believe it. It works. I put my son in scouts, I put my daughter in guides, and they're helping. And I said, you get your break, don't you? You know how many mothers, single mothers, feel they can't get a break? They can't say, let me go to the beach. You know what I mean? I suffered from that. I'm guilty. It's also what I've been guilty of. You know, where I have been told, once you have children, your life is done. No, it's not, because guess what? When you practice self-care as a mommy, then you give more. You cannot feed your children from an empty cup, and it's not just food. Your cup, your emotional cup, can be emptied as well.
And when was the Family Civility Institute founded? Which year?
So it was actually officially founded, because I've been working in it on an official basis and for others, but it was officially founded through COVID. When COVID happened, I didn't know what to do. And I said, you know, I cannot sit here and do nothing, because Canada shut down completely. We couldn't leave our houses. Jobs were being lost left, right, and center. In fact, I had just finished getting my registration for social service work, and I was about to start a job with youth justice system, and everything shut down. So I think, you know, as we say, disappointments are God's direction sign. And it came to the point where I said, you know what, it's about time I start Family Civility. And that's how it happened.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is work that you have already been doing in the community in Jamaica and now in Canada, and you have formally registered it as the Family Civility Institute. And how
Yes.
are you registered? Are you a social enterprise? Are you a nonprofit? Share with us.
So I became a nonprofit, and I'm actually a training institute. So I'm becoming a nonprofit private career college. And people are saying, are you crazy, Rebecca? And I said, you know, I have to live with what I tell. I cannot ask my children to do service. I can't ask people to live within their means if I don't do the same. So I made it a nonprofit purposely, because that is what I personally believe in.
Wonderful, wonderful. As we look at your model, I just want to remind our audience that the Sustainable Development Goals that the United Nations put together, the 17 of them, some of them have explicitly mentioned the word family when you look at the targets, and examples are Sustainable Development Goal number 1 on poverty, number 2 on hunger, number 3 on health, number 4 on education, number 5 on equality. So if you look at all these, there are policies that governments are putting together, and they are called family policies. So for example, there's family policy for poverty and hunger reduction that many governments are implementing. Then there is family policies for health and well-being, touching on the different aspect of health, ranging from maternal and sexual and reproductive health to youth well-being, older persons, when you're dealing with older persons and our parents as the age, there are policies around that. There's also policy around work-family balance. And these are policies that different governments around the world are putting together. And one that have been very close to my heart is the HIV and AIDS policy, and also mental health. So if you look at all these policies, governments and even the United Nations is recognizing that if you want to build stronger communities, you need to build a strong family. Now, why is it that many interventions and nonprofits and social enterprises as well lack to implement a family-centered approach when they are dealing with issues or solving issues?
Well, you said it. You know, when you mentioned the family policies, they're specifically for basic needs. on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're making sure that the family-centered are on the basic needs. But what about peace and justice? What about divorce, which causes the breakup of a nuclear family, which causes a rift and lack of peace in the new formed families? Most of our sustainable development concentrate on mother, father, children, grandparents. But that's not the families nowadays. We have all different, we have single parent homes, we have blended homes, we have families based off of different races, different genders, different sexualities. We have families based, what about our special needs, as we call the different abilities?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're put in policies, but not in laws. And policies change all the time.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a side note. Mm-hmm. And then we go back to peace and justice. Where is the family initiative in peace and justice dealing with, for example, looking at collaborative law instead of having to go to court and having a judge decide on how your children are going to be raised just because the parents don't want to be together? Now in Canada, there is a thing called collaborative law, where parents have to sign on to this type of legal system, and the lawyers don't go to court. They would have to spend all new more money if they decide they can't go to court. It is mediation. It is social work. So one of the things that I teach in my training program, which is also a specialization course after the basic program, is counseling families through divorce. And what it is one of the things I want to advocate in this SDG is that social workers or family civility workers work with the family for a minimum of 6 weeks. And they do goal setting, they do family counseling, and then they write a report to the judge saying, after spending 6 weeks with this family, this is where they want to achieve. There's so many options out there. You know, the children can actually stay in the house while the parents move out because they're the ones leaving. You know, there's so many options. And when you look at the sustainable development, peace and justice actually are the first things to do. You cannot have economic empowerment. You cannot have good health. You cannot have wealth and no poverty if you don't have peace. And what has happened is we look at peace and justice on a national level, whether it's civil war, if it's genocide, but we never look at it on a family level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you look at peace and justice in the family, it's normally put under Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is equality. And that's where you deal with issues around gender-based violence, prevention, and all that. However, at the national level, there are policies that talk about peace and justice at that level. But in the family, it's referred to as domestic violence or gender-based violence. So
it's called interpartner violence.
Now it's called interpartner violence because it's not just about gender. It could be even violence against, you know, children. So it could also be violence against older people. So it's not just about their gender, whether they are male, female, or whichever way they define themselves. It could also be because they are younger people and they're so vulnerable, or they are older people and they're vulnerable. Now, to take us...
Well, let's take that. You made a good point, Carolyne, excellent point. Look at, again, what is the majority of families now? It's a single mother, a matriarchal family. If you have to raise a teenage boy, which I am doing, and I've raised one, and I'm doing the second one now, it takes the patience of Job as a single mother to try and find a way to instill discipline in my young son, who is going through hormones, who is going through that bull, that turning into a calf to a bull. Sorry to use the animal analogy. I grew up with a farmer as a father. But, you know, I can see why single mothers get frustrated and maybe overpower and beat their sons into submission, because sometimes we're stressed, we're hungry, we don't know how to and then you have this young man who says, why should I listen to you? You're a woman. You know, and do you know that I've read books, you know, by Stephen Bodan, when a young man goes through puberty, a female voice is like nails against a chalkboard to them.
Mhm.
They go, so there are biological things happening to your teenage boy that stops him from hearing you, that makes him irritable towards you as a single mother. And then he doesn't have a father to role model. So exactly what you're saying is that IPV, that violence, can even come from the mother to the son. And then that's how the son is raised.
Exactly. And then when you look at those situations and the model that you have with the family civility workers, would you please share with us how you go about your work working with families to bring about your desired results or outcomes?
So my work started, as I said, in Jamaica. I worked using agriculture. I've worked using just working with families in Jamaica, but I never, ever said I am the expert. I go into the home and I listen. And notice I say go into the home. I don't bring one person to the office. I don't say, oh, meet me here. If they want to meet me at a coffee shop, but the first thing I do is I meet the family. I look at and I teach I teach the workers. So I am that type of person where they say, oh, but you need to stay employed. No, I want community workers who have the relationship with the families already, who can be that. And I learned this from being a justice of the peace in Jamaica, actually. So I was a justice of the peace in Jamaica. And what happened is we were those type of people. The families would come with a dispute in the community, and because we knew the community, we would deal with it. But we only saw them when they had a problem. We never could prevent the problem. So I said, hold on here. Let's look at the justice of the peace model and then make them family civility workers where they're proactive. So they go into the home, they see the family dynamics, they do group counseling, and this is supportive counseling with the anti-oppressive lens. So they don't go in there as the authority. They go in there to say, how can I help you achieve your goals? We teach them all the systems in the country, whether it's the Ministry of Labor in Jamaica, Social Security, what charities do what. And they help write advocacy letters. They do a case management. They do goal setting. They help with the goals. They say, okay, what are we going to achieve this week? They don't do it for the family. The family sets goals, and then they just check up on them next week and say, did you do these goals? And they also look at state of change. Not all families want change. And this is sometimes where our sustainable development goes wayside. We go into a community with a miracle. We don't even ask if that community wants help or that type of help. And now charities become a point where people in Jamaica and other developing countries, they say, well, if I can get B's, I'm going to take B's. If it work, it work. But then all you're doing is setting up everybody to fail yet again. And all we're doing is teaching the families, well, whatever you get, you're going to fail, because we don't do the psychological work. In 2018, World Bank did a study that the psychological work on sustainable development is lacking. Therefore, this program is the gap. It's almost like the first thing you do before any sustainable project comes in. You get the families ready for change. You find the families ready for change, and you have them lead the initiative. You don't lead the initiative.
I really love your model. You know, working with the family and having the family as the entry into the communities for whatever program you want to implement, going into different families, not bringing them into a workshop or bringing them into an outreach program where they are gathering in the communities. No, spending time with them in their homes and learning what are their issues, what are they facing. And then, as you said, goal setting with them. I love that very much, because every family has different needs. Yes, there may be generalized needs, like, during COVID-19, there were issues around gender-based violence prevention, or interpersonal violence, as we now call it, or there are issues about hunger and poverty reduction and all that. But each and every family has their unique way of solving their problems, and it's more powerful, as you said it, if the goal setting and the desired outcomes are actually formulated by them, because then they're committed to it, they have ownership. Now, to take us into the next step, which is, how do you operate? I know you've mentioned examples of how you have done work in Jamaica, but now that you're in Canada, how do you operate, and where do you operate right now?
So right now, because of COVID, I'm online and I do all my training and teaching online. And one thing we also do is look at the strengths of the family as well, because we may have weaknesses, but every family has their strengths as well. So we do use the evidence-based, strength-based approach with the family, as well as goal setting. So we look at their strengths. So I teach online. And what I do is cohorts of 30 students. And those 30 students have come from NGOs, they've come from charities. A lot of them come from communities. So for example, we have our political system in Jamaica is based off of the British system. So we actually have MPs. So MPs will say, Rebecca, I have a few constituencies that I really need help in. Here are the community workers that are already working in the communities, or the justice of the peace that are interested in this training. So they will choose. But I also do a process of selection for the course. I do a multiple intelligence test, because if you do not have the aptitude or the personality, if you don't have empathy, you cannot do this job. You need empathy for this job. So I test to see if you have empathy. I test if you have interpersonal skills, if you work well with people. So just like we like to give people a math test and a science test, this is a profession that takes a certain type of personality and a certain type of strength that to be a good social worker. And it's not a social worker on the sense of diagnosis and research. This is a service worker. We get to the front lines. We go into the homes. We want to help. And we also have to look at self-care. So that's one of the other things I work heavily on with the workers, because you can actually achieve vicarious trauma. So when you're going into homes and you will face partner violence, and you have to deal with that, you're going to have to call an organization, you're going to have to report abuse, because even up here by law, as a registered social service worker, I have to report abuse of self, abuse to others, and any talk of harm of self and others. And if there's child abuse, I have to report it. So it's not an easy job. It's not all about wonderful helping people, but it is about helping people, but you have to go through a lot of roadblocks.
Wonderful.
And we don't want to have that vicarious trauma. So not only do I teach the workers online, and before COVID, and if I'm able to go to the country, I do actually fly to the country for 2 weeks. And I teach an in-person workshop for 1 week on theory, and then I go into the community and observe them for the second week. And then I come back, and then weekly we have case management. So I supervise them for 6 months. And then for the diploma program, I mentor them for another 6 months. So it's a 1-year program, but they also have to take online courses in civility, in, like I said, counseling through divorce, challenge champions in special needs. They have to specialize in some courses and become a specialized.
And as an institute, I believe that you are accredited. Would you please share with our audience the accreditations that one who would work with you would get?
So you have to become a registered private career college. So this is a private career college, and you will receive a Canadian diploma.
So
if you do the 1-year program and the requirements, but I also offer a certificate program, which is just a workshop. If you just say, hey, I'm a social worker, but I haven't touched on strength-based and all of this stuff, I just want to do the workshop and the 600 and the 800 hours, that's a certificate program.
So for a certificate program, they would have the 1 week in-person workshop with you. And for the diploma, they will have to work with you for 1 year. They get a Canadian accreditation as a family civility worker. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much. Now, to take us through to the challenges and the lessons that you have learned, share with us a few of those so that anyone who is in this work, working through a family-centered approach, can also learn from you.
I think the biggest lesson I learned, is what I'm teaching. I teach off of the mistakes I have made. I have this brilliant idea in hydroponics, and I said, okay, I'm going to bring the community. That was my biggest lesson in anything to do with family, because again, it goes back to, you cannot force the family to make change. I have to, the lesson I've learned is, I go into some families, they don't want to change. I have to accept that. The second thing is, I can find strengths in everybody, but it takes time, and I have to be patient that they can see the strengths themselves. And the biggest thing is, you cannot go do community development if the community does not believe or has not initiated the change. That's Absolutely. Where it has to happen. Absolutely. They have to initiate the change. You can't.
Sense of ownership is one of the most important things when it comes to community development. When there is a sense of ownership, communities will be able to embrace whatever program it is. They will embrace it, embrace the changes in their behaviors, or adopt new behaviors to bring about the desired results. Now, as we come to the end of our show, I would like to ask you this question, which I normally ask many people. If we were to award you £1 million, what sustainable development goal will you implement? Where will you implement it, and who will benefit?
I would implement peace and justice. I kind of said it before. I think it's the first thing. Once you have peace, you then have the mental health and the state of mind to make any changes, any development, any self. And, I, throughout my life, have either given my power away for peace or have my power taken away. And it's the worst feeling in the world. And so I would put that $1 million in helping people to be empowered. And peace and justice is my way. I would train the lawyers in collaborative law. I would get the justice of the peace in the country. So like, take Jamaica, for example. I know Jamaica, and I would look at Kenya. I love Kenya. It's home. It's so funny. People are like, where would you always want to? I said, Africa. I find more of a connection, I guess, growing up in Jamaica and being Jamaican, and that's my connection. But seeing what a justice of the peace could truly do, I would definitely train and do a whole program training justice of the peace in collaborative law, and see if we can work through peace and bring civility and peace into divorce and family separation.
And what message do you have for any organization, whether they are social enterprise, a government entity, or a nonprofit that is working or implementing programs that are family-centered? What message do you have for them?
Listen, and actively listening is actually I actually teach a whole morning on actively listening. Listen to the family and work with the entire family. A lot of us work with the mother, or we work with the person who walks into the organization, and then we hear their version of the story. In a family, if there are 5 people in the family, there are 5 different truths of the family. If you have a sibling and you go back in time and you talk about a day that you had, I promise you and your sibling will have a completely different memory. of that day. And it's your truth. So that's how we have to deal with family. We have to not just meet with one person to hear one version of the story. You need to go into the home and hear all the versions and all the truths and see the dynamics in order to help the family. Because guess what? The family does not just suffer from violence, from domestic violence. They also are suffering from other things. It could be trauma. So that same man who's the abuser grew up with trauma, and you have to work with him just as much as you have to work with the person, the victim. We tend to not. We punish the abusers and we work with the victims, but we never work with the abusers. And I'm not saying it is like, again, you have to look at state of change and you have to accept change. And if the abuser does not want to change or does not see that they're wrong, and there are disorders called narcissism that can cause that, but it's working with the entire family and getting all the truths.
Now, I know that there is an opening that's coming up, a competition, which is actually a global competition for people who are interested to work with you and have a diploma qualification at the end of their engagement with the Family Civility Institute. Would you please let our audience know how they can be part of this competition?
So we're very excited to launch the Global Family Commission. And with the Family Commission, again, we're not letting these family civility workers out into the world and they have ultimate power and no accountability. We still have to empower the families. So the Family Commission is the group of family civility workers that will oversee and ensure that these workers are not practicing oppression, that they are doing what they need to do. And if the families need somewhere to go to say, hey, my family civility worker is not working, again, we're trying to empower the family and not oppress them, then that's where this commission is. So we're starting, the competition is to form the Family Commission in a country. It could be an existing NGO, it could be an existing charity, it could be somebody who has just 15 people in a community that they all work together. We can start the Family Commission. The beauty is that the beautiful Miss Opinde is partnering with me. So I will train the 15 family civility workers while she'll work with you to start the commission in either the community or the country.
Wonderful. And we are truly honored to be part of this initiative that will be kicking off very soon. So be on the lookout. Where can people find this information, Dr. Rebecca?
Wonderful. So you can email contact@familycivilityday.com. The competition is open today. And you can go on the website, familycivilityday.com, and you can fill out the form and upload your documents. So the documents would be, if you are a registered NGO, a registered charity, you're almost like a small business plan. Where are you going to operate? Do you have the 15 people to train? Who are they? What experience you have? What education you have? Every little piece of information will help with the initial discussion. And then we will give you a call. We'll arrange a Zoom call. We'll interview you. And the competition ends on October 31st. So all submissions have to be in on October 31st. And then we will start the interview session, and then we'll announce the winner on National Family Civility Day on November 15th.
Wonderful, wonderful. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is an opportunity for you to be part of the Family Civility Institute, to be trained by Dr. Rebecca and the team. And I'm also, and the NGO Whisperer, we are part of the team to support you to be effective in doing the work that you need to do to implement your own family-centered interventions in your own country. Ladies and gentlemen, the competition opened on the 9th of October and it closes on the 31st of October. We look forward to having all your nominations and all your applications and having you on board. Lastly, where can people find you on social media and on your website?
So we do have Instagram, and the handle is at Dr. Rebecca Harper. We are on Facebook, where we do a Monday show called Let's Talk Family Civility every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is on the Facebook page, the Family Civility Institute. We're also on YouTube, where all our past shows are on the Family Civility Institute YouTube page. So you can just look up Family Civility Institute. You can also go on the website familycivilityday.com.
Thank you so much. We are so happy to have you, so honored to have you today. Ladies and gentlemen, as we end our show today, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also to go to the Family Civility website and their social media and connect with Dr. Rebecca and be part of this Family Civility initiative that is sweeping the globe from Jamaica to Toronto, Canada, all the way to Africa. You've heard her mention countries like Kenya and many others that will be getting to be part of this global initiative that she is starting off. Thank you so much. It's all about connecting people, raising funds, and impacting lives.